Benjamin Fulford, what is on this week's news item? You do a weekly news report. What is this week's?
Well, a lot of that I like to keep from my subscribers, of course, because that's how I pay my bills. But I will tell you this much. I got a call yesterday from two sources. One was CIA and one was MI5. And they both said the same thing, which was that NATO attempted to launch an air raid on Syria. And because they do not have a UN resolution, in other words, the Russians and the Chinese have not given the green light, which they did in the case of Libya, this would have triggered world war. And there was some insiders in the British Air Force who alerted people to this rogue move, and it was stopped, fortunately for us all.
Well, that's an outrageous story.
Yes, and I guess the other thing I can tell you is that this stuff about Syria is that it looks like the Muslim Brotherhood is in up to the neck with the Vatican P2 Lodge. And this whole business of confronting, forcing Islam and Christianity to confront each other is part of some long and nasty planned series of events that were supposed to, eventually, after like more than 10 years of hardship and death and sorrow, culminate in some kind of Vatican-led world government.
Shouldn't we be pointing some fingers at some Jewish oligarchy, at Israel?
Well, I think they're all part of that same network, certainly Netanyahu's on their payroll and a lot of the other guys. But I think of a lot of the Jews as high-level slaves, and that people above them are not Jewish and they're not Christian. They think of themselves as like gods on earth,
Pretty conceited. Well, just tell us the headlines of your weekly news report this week.
There's a lot going on in Asia too. And then there's the APEC summit this weekend, which should produce some good information. But you'll notice that Hillary Clinton was snubbed in China. The new leader, Xi Jinping, refused to meet her, and she had just gone to Indonesia too to try to get some money and return from there empty-handed as well. Now we have the U.S. Defense Secretary Panetta in China, and he's also going to be asking for money, and he's also going to get told no.
China's putting its foot down.
Well, the new regime is getting ready, and then they're going to be less friendly, to the usual old oligarchs than the current outgoing regime. So, Hu Jintao and Wen Jiabao met with Hillary, but not the new guys.
I have a Syrian analysis. He says that China's a better supporter of Syria than Russia.
Yeah, I have a few questions and doubts about Russia, but overall I think Putin is a good guy, and he's done a lot of good for Russia. But, China is the country that really is pushing for world peace and not hegemony. That's how I look. I can, see it from over here.
Yeah, well, America's just taken on the mantle of the devil, and some people say Russia is under Zionist control.
It's possible. You have to look at what these people do. For example, I thought this new Egyptian President Morsi was a good guy, and then he went and did that weird anti-Syrian rant at Non-Aligned Summit, and then I knew, okay, he worked for those guys too. And Russia, I think, ultimately Russia wants to join the EU and be kind of the middleman between the East and the West, and that's what I think they're pushing for in their particular corner of this geopolitical game that's unfolding. I shouldn't call it game because people are being killed in mass numbers, but these guys act like it's a game, you know?
Well, let's finish off with the euro. There's so many predictions of it collapsing. Do you see that as a possibility?
Sure. I think that the Mediterranean countries would be ultimately better off if they left the euro but stayed in the EU. Because otherwise, their real economies are not going to fix, they're not going to get better. It's just a mathematical thing. You know, they're not going to be able to be competitive if they stay with the same currency the Germans use. People aren't going to go for cheap Greek holidays, you know, and they're not going to be buying Italian wine and stuff. And these people don't really have much in the way of manufacturing, so, you know.
It's extraordinary how Germany is paying for everything. It's subsidizing all of Europe, it seems.
Well, they don't have enough money to pay all of Europe. They needed money from Asia, and that money is being cut off because the Asians are tired of all these warmongering games and invasions and mass murders, you know? And hopefully enough people in the West have also sort of woken up to the fact that you've got some crazy, heavy-duty gangsters trying to manipulate our history in rather unpleasant directions, you know?
Manipulate our history? Just expand on that?
Finance Al-Qaeda. I mean, all this is very, very antisocial behavior, if you put it politely, and mass murder and genocide, if you put it a little bit more strongly. And, you know, decent human beings don't like that kind of behavior.
Well, Israel seems to have its finger in the pie of everything that's ugly at this time.
Israel does need to replace their leadership. And the Israelis, a lot of the Jews are being fooled because they were set up as sacrificial pawns. The original plan was to destroy Israel and half of Iran in order to create the atmosphere to militarize the West. So in other words, you know, they were going to sacrifice the Jews in Israel to Satan. And these guys don't even know it.
I really think you got that right. I think it probably will end up sacrificed. I think you said it all very well there.
Everyone always said the Jews are free to live in that area and no one's going to bother them, you know, and that's still true. But they've been brainwashed with this, you know, apocalyptic fear and you know, another Holocaust, and they've been turned into some of the most paranoid people on earth, you know. And they should just relax and calm down and realize that nobody's out to get them, and but they do have to stop behaving antisocially.
That's a beautiful note to end on.
Okay, thanks for calling me. You know, I'll do more research before I write my report, and there'll be some good news, I think, this week. But no major breakthrough, not yet.
Thanks, Benjamin.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.